before humans appeared, before the Earth revolved around the sun, before the first galaxies were born. In the infinite void, a question haunted humanity for thousands of years. If everything has a beginning, then who created God? It sounds simple. The more you think, the more terrifying that question becomes. Everything in this life must start somewhere. A child is born, a mountain is formed. A star is born and fades after billions of years. Nothing appears spontaneously without a cause. So why is God different? For thousands of years, philosophers, scientists, and theologians have tried to grasp this mystery. Some believe there must be a first cause that needs no creation. Others believe time only began when the universe appeared. Meaning, before that, the concept of before simply didn't exist. Some felt their faith shaken by this question. If God also needed to be created, then who created the Creator? And who created the one after? That chain of questions stretched endlessly like a bottomless abyss. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The Bible doesn't explain God's origin. It doesn't tell of his beginning. It simply states that before anything existed, he was there. That's when many began to realize something strange. The problem isn't God is too complex, but that the human brain was never designed to comprehend eternity. We live within time, so everything must have a past, present, and future. But what if there is a being who exists outside of time? A being with no beginning and no end. That thought terrified many. It shatters all familiar logic humanity relied on to understand the world. The most astonishing thing is, who created God? Perhaps it's not the most dangerous question. What happens if the answer truly exists? Before time existed, humans always think of existence in the same way. Everything must have a beginning. If there's a birth date, there will be an end date. If there's a cause, there will be an effect. We grow up within the flow of time. So our brains inherently believe everything must follow a straight line. Past, present, and future. But then a problem arises. If time was also created, then what existed before time? This question sounds logical at first, but the deeper you go, the stranger it becomes. Because before itself is a concept belonging to time. You cannot say before time if time doesn't exist. It's like asking where the north of the North Pole is. The question sounds normal, but is inherently self-contradictory from its logical foundation. This is where modern science and theology began to intersect in a way that astonished many. In the early 20th century, Albert Einstein completely changed how humanity understood the universe. Before that, time was seen as a fixed entity, running uniformly everywhere. But the theory of relativity shattered that idea. Einstein showed time does not exist independently. It is linked with space into a single structure called space-time. That means time is not an invisible clock that has always existed from eternity. It is part of this very universe. Without the physical universe, time as we know it would not exist. Many physicists believe that at the moment of the Big Bang, not only was matter created, but time itself also began then.
The universe did not appear within time. Time itself appeared simultaneously with the universe.
And that's when the first verse of the Bible made many pause and think.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. This verse doesn't just speak of matter. It refers to the beginning of all physical reality, including space, matter, and time. Some theologians believe this is why the Bible never attempts to explain when God was born. Because according to biblical thought, the very concept of when only exists after creation. This makes it almost impossible for the human brain to process. Imagine a reality without time. No yesterday, no tomorrow, no waiting, no aging, no movement from point A to point B. Everything we call change disappears. Because change requires time. If there is no time, no event would happen in sequence. No before and then after. Only an eternal reality that the human mind has never experienced. That is why many ancient philosophers believed God does not live within time like humans. He does not see history as we do. Humans are like standing in the middle of a long road, seeing only a few meters ahead. But God. From a theological perspective, it's like seeing the entire road simultaneously from above.
Past, present, future, all are present before Him in an eternal present.
That is also why some theologians believe God did not wait to create the universe.
Because waiting requires time. He did not sit in endless darkness for billions of years before deciding to say, "Let there be light."
According to Christian theology, God's creative decision did not occur at a moment in time. Because time did not yet exist to measure that moment. Because time did not yet exist to measure that moment. Because we are trapped within time, we always think everything must have a beginning. But if there is a being who exists outside of time, he would never have begun as humans understand. And that is what makes the question, who created God, so dangerous? Because that question assumes God also exists within time like us. It assumes that He also had to experience a moment of being born.
But if time only appeared after creation, there would be no before for someone to create Him.
If there is no time, then God never began.
That is the moment many realize they are standing before an idea beyond all human experience.
A reality with no beginning, no end, no aging, no change, not limited by any moment. And the most terrifying thing is, if that is true, this entire universe might just be a tiny moment.
Before an eternal being that humanity has never truly understood.
Mọi sự vật đều có khởi nguồn. Con người luôn tin rằng mọi thứ đều phải có một nguyên nhân.
A child is born because they have parents. A building exists because someone built it. A fire appears because something ignited it. We grow up in a world where every effect leads back to a preceding cause.
And then the question arises, if this universe was created by God, Who created God?
At first glance, this seems like the strongest question to refute faith.
For years, many atheists saw it as the ultimate blow to all theological arguments.
Because if religious believers say everything needs a creator,
then God himself must also need a creator. It sounds very logical. But that logic might be based on a false assumption from the start. For thousands of years, ancient Greek philosophers were obsessed with this very question. Aristotle, one of history's greatest minds, observed the world. He realized every movement requires a prior cause. A rolling stone is moved by an impact. An arrow flies because someone shot it. Everything is connected by a chain of causes and effects. But then Aristotle realized something terrifying. If everything requires a preceding cause, then that chain would extend infinitely. If the chain of causes is infinite, nothing would truly begin. Imagine an infinite line of dominoes. Each one falls only when the one before it pushes it. But if the first domino doesn't exist, then the entire chain would never move. That led Aristotle to a startling conclusion. There must be a first mover. A cause not caused by anything else. A self-existent being who is the origin of everything else. Centuries later, Thomas Aquinas further developed this idea into one of the most famous arguments. He called it the first cause. According to Aquinas, there are two types of existence in this reality. The first type is things that might not exist. Humans belong to this group. You exist because your parents met. If just one small event in the past changed, you might never have been born. The same goes for a star, the same for a planet. Even the universe might not have existed if the initial conditions were different. Those are called contingent beings. Aquinas argued that if everything depends on something else for its existence, then ultimately there must be something that does not depend on anything. A being whose existence is by its very nature, uncreated, uncaused, unable not to exist. He called it the necessary being. This is where the conversation starts to get strange. Because when humans ask, who created God, we are assuming God also belongs to the same category as everything else in the universe. That he is also an object that requires a cause to appear. But according to Aquinas' argument, God is not part of that chain of causes. He is the reason that chain exists in the first place. It's like asking, how much do the laws of physics weigh? The question sounds grammatically correct, but is fundamentally flawed. Because the laws of physics are not objects to be weighed. Similarly, according to Christian theology,
God is not a very powerful being living somewhere in the universe.
He is not something within reality. He is the foundation that makes reality exist.
And this is when many begin to feel their thoughts being pulled down into an abyss.
If there must be an uncreated being to explain the existence of everything,
then asking who created God might be a misunderstanding of the concept of God from the start. Some theologians express this in an extremely simple way.
God is not the first creature in a chain of creatures.
He is the reason the entire chain exists. If he was also created, another being would be needed.
And that being would need another. That chain would extend infinitely, without ever having a final foundation.
But if there must be a final stopping point for all causes, then according to classical theology, that point is God. That is why many philosophers believe the most dangerous question is not,
who created God?
but rather, if a self-existent being does not exist, then why does anything exist at all instead of nothing? And that very moment,
the debate was no longer just about religion. It became the deepest question about the nature of existence. Because if God was created, then he is no longer God. I am the self-existent one. A prince who once lived amidst gold, silver, and power was now just a shepherd, wandering in the desolate wilderness of Midian. But it was in the place seemingly most forgotten by God that something inexplicable happened. A burning bush. Flames raged fiercely in the dry land. But strangely, the bush was not consumed. He had lived many years in the desert. He understood what fire does to dry wood. He knew how nature worked. But what was before him no longer belonged to the natural world. That moment was not just an encounter. It was the first time in biblical history a human directly confronted the greatest question of existence. Who is God? Not the God of Egypt, not a stone idol made by humans, not a philosophical idea. He asked what anyone would ask. If the Israelites ask his name, how should I answer? And then the answer came, unlike any name in human history. No title, no emblem, no lineage.
Only a short sentence, but enough to shake all of philosophy, theology, and human history. I am, that I am, that I am.
That is the moment all conventional logic begins to collapse. Because everything in this world depends on something else to exist.
Humans need oxygen, stars need energy, planets need gravity, trees need water, life needs time. But God, throughout Exodus, introduced himself as a being independent of anything.
He does not receive life.
He is the very source of life. This is the most astonishing concept in the entire Bible.
God does not just live forever, but he is absolute existence itself.
What does that mean? It means that before the first galaxy appeared, he existed. Before the first light pierced the darkness, he existed.
No one gave birth to him. No one created him. Nothing sustains him. And that is what makes it almost impossible for the human mind to comprehend.
Because we live in a world of cause and effect. Everything has a beginning. We have never seen anything self-existent. So when hearing of a being with no beginning, the brain immediately resists. But this is where the Bible pushes humanity beyond the limits of conventional logic. According to many theologians, God does not exist within time like us. He does not age, does not wait, does not move from past to future. He exists in a reality beyond time. That is why the phrase "I am" becomes so terrifying. Because it is not just a word. It is a declaration that he is ultimate reality. Everything else may vanish, but he does not.
The Egyptian Empire was once mighty and then fell. Babylon once ruled the world and vanished. And Rome once thought itself eternal and then turned to dust.
But I am remains. The deeper one thinks, the stranger the story of the burning bush becomes. And why didn't God appear in a storm? Why not a giant angel? Why a small bush in the desert?
Perhaps because from the very beginning, the Bible wanted to reveal something extremely important.
God is infinite, but he can step into the smallest things. The creator of galaxies, speaking to a fleeing shepherd.
The one beyond space and time, calling the name of a fearful human.
And perhaps that is the greatest mystery of this entire journey. The question, who created God? Ultimately, it doesn't just lead us to the origin of the universe, but to a greater question. If the eternal being truly exists, then how will we live this life?
Thank you for watching this video. If you found the content meaningful, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Faith and Glory channel so you won't miss out on more inspiring videos about faith and life values. See you in the next video!